Okay, so we're going to discuss how to get good at impromptuing theory shells, which is a crucial skill. I think the most important part about impromptuing theory shells is A, having an outline in mind, sort of a structure through which you would go through an impromptu theory shell. So similarly, when you're impromptuing an AC, which hopefully you're never in the position of having to do, you would start with some definitions. You would start with some burden structure analysis about what the app has to do, what the neg has to do. You would explain what the value is. You'd explain what the standards are, and then you'd give offense back to the standards in the form of contentions, right?
Yeah.
So we have that structure in mind.
Yep.
So similarly on theory, we obviously know that the structure is interp, violation, standards, voter.
Yep.
Right? Now, the best way to impromptu a theory shell is to remember the claim warrant impact part of the standard. That's where people really trip up.
Okay.
Right? So the interp when you're impromptuing a theory shell should be written out.
Okay.
At least in shorthand.
Yeah.
You should have an idea of what your interp will be.
Okay.
Right? This is both for you and for your opponent, because I think there are some persuasive arguments indicating that you should have at least a text of your interp or be able to reconstruct the text of your interp, since it is the rule that you defend.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, interp should be written. Violation, we want to do two things. One is confirm it in cross-examination.
Okay.
And second is point out exactly which argument in the AC violated or the MC violated. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Now, on the standards, so like let's say we're reading Pics bad, right? I'm going to just impromptu Pics bad. I want you to look at how I follow the claim warrant impact portion of this.
Okay.
Okay? So, listen.
Tell me to flow or no?
Sure, you can flow if you want. If you're following along at home as well, flow and then look at your screen, which will have this template for how you impromptu something. Okay. Neg counterplans may not be plan inclusive. Violation is confirmed in cross-examination. You can see that you're reading a PIC standards 1 times Q. You undercut the value of the 1AC. This is because the PIC restarts the debate in the 1AR. You narrow the debate down to the specific disadvantage that you're picking out of, which indicates that I can't get access to any of the AC offense anymore, and I have to restart in the 1AR. Uniquely abusive because the 1N gets 7 minutes to construct the reason the PIC is a good idea, and then 6 minutes to defend it, whereas I only get 4 minutes to construct reasons why the PIC is a bad idea, and then 3 minutes to defend my reasons why it is a bad idea, which means I get 7 minutes of talking time on the PIC, and you get 13 minutes of speaking time on the PIC. Times key to fairness because it ensures that the AF gets to leverage its time properly. I can't do so in a world where you arbitrarily cut out the value of the AC. Second, standard is predictability. You kill predictability. A point here is that there are an infinite amount of PICs you can read, which indicates that the 1AR will always be gasping for breath on the theory debate or on the substantive debate because I won't know exactly which portions of the AF you disagree with. For example, you could read a delay counterplan. You could read consult some other country before we do the AF counterplan. You could read a counterplan that says let's do all portions of the AF except this one situation, which indicates that there are a lot of different ways you can go about the PIC debate, and I won't ever have prep on this, magnified by the fact that I only have 2 months to prep on the topic, which means that I don't get the depth of the research which would make PICs okay in an activity like policy where they debate the topic for a year, which is a long amount of time. The predictability key to fairness because it ensures that both debaters have research on the arguments that will actually win or lose the debate rounds. Third argument here is breadth of education. In a world of the PIC, you narrow the arguments down to specifically one situation, which is the PIC, which means that we don't get to access the plethora of situations where you would get to defend in a world of the converse. The key point here is that the PIC is not necessary for you to access your disadvantage. The PIC represents a situation which we don't do the AF, which means that the disad to the PIC or the advantage to the PIC would have been something you could have read without the PIC anyways. If you think that we shouldn't do the AF because of a politics scenario, you could still read the politics scenario and defend whole res converse, which means that we would get a much larger breadth of education. Also undercuts your no abuse arguments or key to neg ground arguments because you still have your neg ground underneath the world of the PIC, but you just also have to give me access to more arguments, which indicates that also we get more, argumentation, which is uniquely good. A point here is that breadth key to education, since it ensures that we get a wide exposure to argumentation. Depth is useless in the context of debate because it is never the purpose of debate to go in depth in argumentation. In a competitive setting where we only speak for 13 minutes on each issue, the depth happens pre-round in terms of research, not during the round. B point here is breadth key to fairness because it ensures that one debater can't arbitrarily leverage an issue that they're well frontlined on. So notice how, even though I was impromptuing it, I was relatively efficient.
Yeah.
And notice how in-depth it was still, though.
Definitely, yeah.
Right? And it was still dealing with a lot. The thing about it was it preempted a lot.
Yeah.
Right? And it did a lot of interactional work. So even if like on timeskew, right? I want you to notice how it was comparative. The best abuse compares and isolates abuse, right? You have 7 minutes to construct and defend the PIC. You have 7 minutes to construct the PIC and then 6 minutes to defend it. Whereas I have 4 minutes to come up with reasons it's a bad idea and then 3 minutes to defend my defense.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So instead of saying you kill times Q because the AC doesn't matter anymore, and then leaving it at that, I explain how the AC not mattering anymore then means that the neg gets more time to speak on the issue that wins the round, and the AF gets less.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then on predictability, I gave an example about all the different Pics you could read.
Yeah.
Right? And then I explained why this is uniquely bad.
Yeah.
And on breadth, notice how it was impacted back to education and fairness. And it also preempted the ground argument.
Mm-hmm.
And it also created a preempt to no abuse. So this is how you can write a tricky shell, right? Where within your shell you embed arguments that interact on the interp counter interp debate.
Okay.
And so the other thing is, I think you can notice, even though I'm a few years out of the game, this is something I practice quite a bit.
Yeah.
Because it's something that still just comes back to me easily, right? And I'm not at a full-on spread. This is nowhere close to top speed, but it's still brisk. A parent would have trouble understanding exactly what I just said.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's relatively efficient.
Yeah.
So the trick I have is I tell myself, claim, you skew time. Warrant, give an explanation for why they skew time. Impact, why is time skew important?
Okay.
And in my warrant, I always tell myself, be comparative, Paris. Be comparative and give examples.
Okay.
The more specific your explanation for why they're being abusive, the better.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the last part to a theory shell is the voter. Now, if for some reason you don't have it scripted out, which makes no sense whatsoever, it should 100% be scripted out, this would be the outline for the voter. Fairness is a voter because. Education is a voter because. Weigh against the two if necessary. What is the paradigm for the shell? Competing interps reasonability. Explain the impact of the shell. Preempt the RVI if you have time. And theory comes first.
Okay.
Those are the big things that you need to cover in the voter.
Okay.
So I would recommend printing this out and putting this against your expando at tournaments. And when you're impromptu, or just putting it in a file called impromptu theory shells. And when you're impromptuing a theory shell, using this as your template, literally looking at this and just reading down the line.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Because I think visually this will really help you.
Yeah. Okay.
So why don't we do this? Why don't you impromptu interpretation, which indicates that we cannot have necessary but insufficient burdens.
Okay.
And why don't you open up on your computer the shell outline and practice using it and thinking about it in terms of the outline.
Okay.
Cool. And here's the other big conversation we need to have, is what should your flow look like when you're impromptuing something?
Yeah.
I would just write the name of the standards. I would not write down the warrants.
Okay.
The warrant should be in your mind. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. So just the name of the standards, and I would obviously try to... The most writing should be near the inter.
Okay.
Right? You don't have to write words like the, or af, or neg. Yeah, you just, abbreviate. Use shorthand. But your interp should be close to fully written out.
Okay.
And everything else should be very, very little.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. So give yourself 60 seconds of prep time. For those of you following along at home, I hope you guys are doing this as well, because it's the best way to get better and to use these videos.
Double check. It's neither debater gets nibs?
Yeah, neither debater gets nibs.
Cool.
Cool. 60 seconds starting now. Okay, so for those of you following along at home, hopefully you've given your speech now indicating that theory is not a nib, and you've done it impromptu. I want you to look at the time it took you to do it, and I want you to compare it to the time it's going to take Jack to do it, and then incorporate my feedback and improve accordingly. Ready whenever you are, buddy.
Okay. A is the interpretation. Neither debaters may read necessary but insufficient words. B is a violation. This is confirmed across sex. C is standard first times. If I spend time in 1 hour answering that insufficient word, you can go in the 2 hour and just say mode all my offense, because you can say that was not sufficient for me to win the round, which means that that gets rid of my offense back in the 1 hour, which then kills my time, because if I spend the 1 hour answering half my 1 hour answering the that's insufficient word, you can spend all your 2 hours just saying why the offense is moving, gaining your offense, meaning you have triple the time I do, because I only get 2 minutes in 1 hour with. This supercharges the length that the 1 hour is time crunch, because that makes the 1 hour even more time crunch than it already is. Time key to finish, because I have to be able to lever my offense and have equal time to make the same quality of rounds, because if you have more time in the round, you can make better quality rounds and win the round. Next is strats Q. Sorry. I'm just thinking. The reading answer in insufficient burdens kills Stratsky because if I base half my one AR strat answering that burden, and then you can make all my answers moot. You can moot half. You can moot my get rid of all my offense, half my offense to the one AR, which kills one of my routes to battle, which means that you're gonna have more routes to battle, and you can moot my routes to battle, which means you're gonna have more opportunities to win rounds. So you're gonna have more opportunities to actually win the round, which kills my strategy. And Stratsky was key to fairness because if you have more opportunities to win the round, you can win the round by making my opportunities less and not actually you can gaining more. Next is clash, or third is clash. Next in insufficient burdens kill clash because if I actually put offense on the argument, you're just gonna say that you kick the argument because it's not sufficient for me to win the round, which means that you're not actually gonna ever engage in clash. And if I don't engage in insufficient burden, you'll just extend that, not actually extend any of the warrants in clash than your arguments, but you'll just go for that for the reason to win the round, which means that there's gonna be no clash in the round. Clash key to fairness first. Clash key to education because the reason that we have to base to make our arguments better, and without clash we can actually make any of our arguments better. And also clash key to fairness because if one debater doesn't actually if one debater wins the round by not actually engaging with the other's arguments, it's gonna be an easy win for the voters. Fairness because
Stop. Okay, so we're at 2 minutes prior to the voter.
Yeah.
Okay. Voter, I don't think you ever need to impromptu.
Okay.
Just have a page with all the voter stuff on it.
Okay.
Right? It's really important that you start printing stuff on the theory debate and
Okay.
just have a theory expando. Because I think that pulling this up on your computer is often a frustrating thing. And
Yeah.
I think you lose a lot of prep time often doing this. There's no reason we can't just bring one expando to tournaments, which is a theory expando.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yep.
Cool. So, in terms of how long that took, I think it took way too long. 2 minutes to establish 3 standards is just too long. Okay? So, let's compare it to how I do it. Ready?
Yep.
Okay. Interpretation. Neither debater may read nibs. Violation confirmed in cross-examination standards 1 time skew. You kill time because you either undercover or I either undercover or overcover the nib, and you just go for whichever argument I did worse on, which means that you arbitrarily get rid of large portions of my speaking time. This 1 AR is going to have to go for 2 layers, and the 2 AR will just collapse one of the 2 layers or just spread me thin on both layers. Indicates very clearly that you also skew my strategy because I will always have to go for both, and you can go for either, which means you'll go for the argument that you have the best quality of argumentation on time skew. Keep fairness because it ensures that both debaters get to properly leverage arguments and get equal access to arguments. Strategy skew key to fairness as well because strategy is how you construct pieces to win the round. Arguments don't win rounds, strategies do. Second standard is clash. You kill clash because the nibs are not designed to engage the AF. They're designed to uplayer against the AF and then hope that the AF overinvests on the nib, and so you can just kick the nib. Very, very clear instance of avoiding clash. Clash key to fairness because it ensures that both debaters can that you can actually determine the better debater in terms of who was making arguments against who was making the better arguments and was actually responding to each other. And also key to education because it's the mechanism by which we get in-round education. It's the only unique educational standard that happens in actual debate rounds.
Okay.
So I was very inefficient there, and I stumbled quite a bit. But I would say that was still a lot shorter and faster than you.
Yeah. I think my problem is that I try to overcover it because I think like, oh, maybe the argument wasn't good enough, so I put another argument there, and then that leaves me to spend way too much time on it.
Yeah.
So I have to like be confident and like my argument is like good.
You do have to be confident, right? You have to recognize when the argument is good enough.
Okay.
I think the best way to do that is to record yourself at home when you're doing impromptu drills and then flow your recording. And be critical. Think about when could I have cut off with this argument and moved on.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think also the other key here is to practice a ton. Like, I used to practice, like, walking to school. I used to practice in the shower. I used to practice just, like, all the time. Just, like, it takes less than 2 minutes to practice a theory shell from beginning to end. I practiced imprompting a theory shell maybe, like, 500-600 times during high school, right? And so by that time when I was in a real round and I was impromptuing it, it's something I'd done literally hundreds of times.
Yeah.
So, like, in the car on the way back home today, practice impromptuing theory shells.
Okay.
Right? And just think of any scenario. Like, let's say you're defending the Pics in the 2-R. Practice defending that debate, right?
Okay.
And just like, and then on the interp, like you're reading a counter interp, and then against the interp, just think of all the arguments people make and practice responding to them.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You should basically be able to construct the whole theory debate in your head.
Okay.
In Europe, I didn't have a computer for a long period of time, and I was still teaching you guys theory debate. It was literally all out of my head, right? Like, I didn't have any of the arguments. It's just in here.
Yeah.
And so all the theory debate should be mentally scripted for you.
Okay.
The best theory debaters can do that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think we should also add to your homework assignment writing out the voter.
Okay.
And practicing articulating the internal link from a standard to the voter is also something that would be good for you.
Yeah, definitely. Okay.
Cool.
Do you think that should be scripted too, or just memorize that? Like the internal
What?
links of like prep skew to fairness and something.
I would just memorize it.
Okay.
Because that's something you don't want a piece of paper where you're having to like circle exactly which internal links you're reading back to the voter.
Okay.
Right? You want to be able to just memorize that part.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
We're trying to minimize the amount of prep time you spend pulling pieces of paper out or pulling documents up on your computer.
Okay.
We're trying to maximize the amount of prep time you spend prepping.
Okay.
Cool?
Yep.
All right, let's practice again. I want you to read a theory shell that indicates that the affirmative may not read affirmative framework choice.
Okay.
Give yourself, why don't you give yourself 2 minutes here just to see if it helps improve a little bit.
Okay.
I also want you to, in this theory shell, after the standards, I want you to preempt all the arguments that the AF read, or just respond to them. I want you to respond to time skew and strat skew.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Give yourself 2 minutes. If you're following along at home, I would highly recommend that you do this as well. Okay, so for those of you following along at home, hopefully you have given the AFC bad speech and you have used the outline and you have listened to yourself give that speech and been able to critically analyze yourself. So now we're going to listen to Jack give it, and you're going to see me writing along on the standards if he has done the claim, if he's done the warrant, if he's done the impact, and we'll also analyze how long it took. Cool.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
A's interpretation, the affirmative may not claim affirmative framework choice in the ACB. Is a violation confirms in cross-exam, and it's pretty obvious. C, standards first philosophic education. 8 point is you kill opportunities to weigh. Framework decide what's the one of the best for the ethical theory, which means that there's a way to actually gain more opportunities to actually look to the variety of ethical theories that the affirmative and negative can bring up when only the affirmative can bring up the ethical theory. And B point, even philosophy is bastardized in LD. It's still introduction LD. You can get a bigger introduction in philosophy and later in college, meaning that even if LD is too short of opportunity to really gain philosophic education, you still have an introduction, which is which you kill. Philosophic education is key to education because it actually affects our daily life, because we use philosophy to actually engage every daily decisions. Second, predictability. First, A point. This is that you have to have random frameworks that are not predictable at all, because they can choose the framework and always be extensively frontline of any defensive arguments the negative will make. That means the affirmative will always be more prepared because they know the framework around. The negative is always going to be reactive. B point is this insights have to be to use frameworks that are not link internable, don't have offense that are link internal, which means that the frameworks clearly flow out, which makes it much harder for the negative win, because they have to be defensive to all the to link all their offense to the framework. And B point, the apps are gonna choose frameworks that specifically are hard for the negative to actually link into this. This makes affirmatives choose frameworks that clearly affirm and make the affirmative much easier. But now predictability is key to fairness, because if one debater can't predict the offense coming into the round, they're going to always be disadvantaged, because they're always gonna have defensive arguments of the other bit well for extensive front lines. Third is strat skew. I base all my offense defensively, because I've used my offense to link it back to your framework. This turns out the 1 AR time skew effects, because you can always up layer in the 1 AR. There's no reason why the 1 AR being time crunch means that you should be able to choose the framework. You can always you can either go all on the framework debate in the 1 AR, or you can up layer in theory and get rid of the framework base. There's no time skew effect. Also no strat skew effects, because it skews my strategy more than it skews your strategy, because you always need extensively frontline. So there's gonna be no strat skew in the world of the but I'm always gonna base my offense defensively rather than offensively.
Cool.
Voter.
So that's 208.
Yeah, it's too long. Yeah.
No, that's not bad. That was a lot more in depth than the Nibs bad. You got a lot more covered.
Yeah.
Than against the Nibs speech. Like right here, you did a lot more than you did against Nibs.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Obviously that can be improved a little bit, but I hope you notice immediate improvement as well, right? Like, I think you're probably going to be better at impromptu theory shells now.
Yeah.
So something we'll do is we'll start all of our drill sessions with an impromptu shell.
Okay.
From now on. And so I would add this to your homework drill, like, every single night. Like, there should be no excuse, Jack, for the next month and a half or 2 months for you to spend at least 10 minutes every day practicing impromptu.
Okay.
If you do that, you will notice a significant improvement by the time that you're competing at tournaments.
Okay. Do you have, like, this is going to sound weird, but do you have, like, a list of, like, shells I should just know to impromptu?
Yeah, everything on our Dropbox folder under theory interps, you should be able to impromptu.
Okay.
Every single thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. You should also be able to impromptu AF theory spikes the way you just heard them today.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Basically, all theory arguments you should be able to impromptu.
Okay.
And you should definitely start recording yourself and listening to your own recordings. That's, I think, the biggest thing debaters don't do right now that would really change how quickly you got better. If you start listening to yourself, you will notice all your flaws.
Yeah.
And get so much better, so much faster.
Okay.
Okay, so let's practice the third one. I want you to write a shell, or like give an impromptu shell saying that the AF cannot claim drop the debater while the neg gets drop the argument.
Okay.
So for those of you following along at home, write a shell against this, and let's see how you do. Take why don't we give you, now we'll give you the medium time, 90 seconds of prep time.
Okay. Wait, so is AF claims drop the debater on one AR theory, but drop the argument
on neg theory.
Okay.
Correct. Okay, so for those of you following along at home, this is now the third impromptu theory shell outline, or theory shell drill rather, that you're doing. And in this one, we're going to read a theory shell saying that the AF cannot claim drop the debater for 1AR theory, and the neg cannot, and neg gets drop the argument on 1N theory. And so compare the speech you just gave to the speech you're about to hear from Jack, and then incorporate my feedback.
A's interpretation, the affirmative cannot claim drop the debater on 1AR theory, but drop the argument NR theory. B's violation confirmed cross-ex, and it's a spike in the ACC stands versus Tratsky. When the theory becomes easy after the 1AR because you can just concede the shell and go for whole resolution of the drop the argument of NR theory, but then you can go for 1AR theory and say drop the debater, which makes the 2NR extremely hard for me because I have to answer the entirety of the 1AR shell in order to not lose round, but doesn't actually give me a win unless I justify an RVI, which means I have to answer both theory shell and justify an RVI, and if I don't answer both those, I'll lose the round. Which means that AF will always be ahead because they can literally just not answer the theory shell and say that they'll drop the argument, go for the whole resolution, which means that they can be as abusive as possible and they just say go for whole resolution, they go all in on theory in the 1AR. This is Stratsky's key difference because if the AC can base all their if the AC has more opportunities to base their strategy in the round, they'll have a more clear path to the ballot. Second is time skew. You can move the time I spend the 1 and R on theory, and you can go for all on theory the 1AR because you can say that the shell I read in the 1 and R is just drop the argument, which means you can go for whole resolution, move all the time I spend the 1R calling out theoretically legitimate aspects of the AC. Then you can go all in on the 1ER, all in the 1ER on theory, which means that there's no actual time trap because you can spend 4 minutes on 1ER, which means extremely effective on theory. You can read multiple shells and say that they're both drop debater, which makes the 2NR extremely hard for me. And I have to be both preemptive to the 2AR and reactive to the 1AR, which means the time skip effects are even more amplified for the 2N. Time skip key advantage because one better has more time to make they can make better quality arguments and win the round easily. Or third is clash. The round is always going to be devolved to theory because the theory is just a no risk issue for the app because you can be drop debater, but then I have to justify both drop the argument and why the net gets RVIs. I mean, every single round will devolve to theory and will never actually have any topic education because theory is no risk issue for the app, and app will always go for theory. This goes topic education. Topic education is uniquely important because we only have 2 months to engage this topic where we have 4 years to gain theoretical education. We don't need theory to go for theory every single round.
Cool. So not bad. I think that if you were a little bit more efficient with arguments, that could have been given in 130, 120. You could have gotten through the arguments a lot faster than you are currently. But I think you're getting the hang of it in terms of the big picture, how to do it, just to claim more impact, right? So it's not that hard, I think, is what you're recognizing, right? It's really actually super easy and simple. The key is being able to effectively but efficiently deliver the warrant underneath the standard. That's the biggest thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so again, the best way to get good at this is practice, listen to yourself, flow yourself, criticize yourself, redo that practice over and over and over again until you get it perfect.
Okay.
And do this for every theory debate that you can think of, especially the ones on our Dropbox.
Okay.
Cool?
Yeah.
All right.